Have you ever wondered why some kids struggle with prolonged developmental delays, emotional outbursts, and learning difficulties? My name is Lisa, and I am a mom of former micro-preemie. He had serious delays in development. He couldn't walk until he was almost 2.5 years old. He couldn't talk until he was 3.5 years old, and struggled a lot with emotional stability. Honestly, my husband and I had a very hard time with him during toddler years. I had to educate myself, seek out resources that will boost the effects of just traditional therapies such as physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. My son is almost 6 now, and he's a very smart and happy child. He went through a huge transformation with help of reflex integration therapy and other activities that I will be sharing here on my channel. Believe it or not, but my son Michael said his first word right after the 3rd session of reflex integration therapy. I asked Dr. Light, the core MNRI specialist who worked with my son and literally unlocked my child's potential, to explain more about the connection between baby's reflexes and future child development. Just a heads up, there will be 2 episodes with Doctor in this video. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Dr. Leah Light of the Brainchild Institute. And if you have a child or are involved with a child that has prematurity, autism spectrum disorder, or other genetic disorders or other types of brain injury, you're really going to want to know about what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about our most primary motor system, what we call our primary reflexes. So all babies across the world are born with these reflexes, such as when you put your finger in a baby's hand, they grasp it. Or if you stroke a baby on the side of the cheek, they turn and start to root. And these baby reflexes or primary reflexes are critical for our brain development, the maturation, I should say, of these reflexes. And what we found is that many children that have developmental problems or sensory processing issues, behavioral issues, learning disabilities, you name it, have at the very root of their problems retained primary reflexes. And perhaps the severity or the number of these reflexes that your child still has may determine what their quote-unquote diagnosis might be. But the most important thing is not the acronym that's associated with the child's developmental issues, but what are these reflexes that are stuck, that haven't matured properly, that are keeping this brain in a more unorganized, disorganized state. One of the most important systems that we have to integrate these reflexes is the touch system. We call it somatosensory system. And in children, there is something called non-classical auditory pathways that are active that link touch, hearing, and vision in one channel. And these pathways represent these primary reflexes. And over time, these pathways mature, and by the age of 20, these non-classical auditory pathways should no longer preside. But we're finding also that in many children with developmental disorders, these pathways are not maturing properly because the primary reflexes have not matured. They're stuck. And the great news is that we can get them unstuck by doing specific exercises that look very similar to massage. And parents can learn how to do these exercises, and they need to do them on a regular basis, much like practicing the piano. If you want to get good at it, or you want to be a concert pianist, it's something that has to be done regularly. But they're easy to do, and they really are the very basis for brain development. These maturation of these primary reflexes must come before other forms of therapy, so that the other types of therapy, such as speech therapy, occupational therapy, and physical therapy, can be much more meaningful, and the child will have more success.
I wish I knew this earlier. I wish I would have taken my son to Dr. Light when he was just discharged from NICU. But nobody shared with me this extremely useful information that actually based on tons of research. By the way, I'm going to put some links in the description below, and other links and resources I will put all together in a special guide for parents of preemies. So if you want to be among first who have access to this guide, I advise you to subscribe to my channel and please follow me on my brand new Instagram page, Preemie Wellness Coach. So premature babies, they simply cannot develop some of the reflexes as they just leave mother's womb too early. If you think about this, preemies go through huge emotional and physical trauma that definitely in most cases can lead to brain's neural pathway blockage or damage or a compromised neurosensory motor system. And when it happens, it can definitely impact reflex development and integration. Do you want to help your preemie thrive as soon as possible and not to wait years and hope your child will outgrow some of the problems? Please listen to what Dr. Light has to say.
So then what's the next step once you suspect that your child has retained primary reflexes or you want them to be evaluated for this? Well, I happen to be trained in something called the Masgutova method, also called Masgutova Neurosensory Motor Reflex Integration, or MNRI. There are a number of core specialists in the United States that are trained in this particular intervention. And basically, what we do is we work with these children. We work with children that have developmental problems, behavioral problems, as I mentioned, particularly children that have been born prematurely or have had some sort of a brain injury or something of that nature. And we do a specific sensory stimulation. So every primary reflex has a particular sensory stimulation. As I mentioned before, the sensory motor stimulation for grasp is you touch the hand, particularly in this particular area. And the motor response is that the child grabs onto that hand, that finger. And so just as with that, every reflex has a sensory part and it has the corresponding motor response that needs to go with it. But if the motor responses are scrambled, for example, if I touch the hand and instead of doing this, it does this, then my reflexes are actually working against me instead of for me. And then the child or the system is in such chaos and becomes really dysregulated. And this is where you see all kinds of behavioral issues, you see feeding problems, you see sleeping disorders, you see learning problems, language delays, and so forth. So if you can actually get to the root of the problem by addressing these very specific sensory motor reflexes, you can eliminate a whole host of other problems that will happen later on. In fact, if we can get children early enough, we can prevent a lifetime of learning, low self-esteem, and behavioral problems. So please look into this type of intervention, whether you use the MNRI approach or some other approach. Primary reflexes must be addressed first so that you have a solid foundation upon which to build the other levels, the higher levels of brain development. Thank you.
I think I don't need to add anything else after such amazing explanation. I just want to conclude and I want you to remember reflex integration creates a strong development foundation. If your preemie had a rough start in this life, the power is now in your hands. You don't need to wait. You need to find a proper specialist and set your child up for success. If you need help, please send me a message and we'll find a solution together. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.